fundamental rights. The core base of our financial support comes from a donor base of ordinary interest users like you and I. So please consider donating to us if you haven't already. If you aren't a member, please consider becoming a member. For more information, please check out the link that will be shared in the chat soon. So if you're familiar with our structure for the members call, we are trying out something new this time. Instead of going vertical wise, we are going theme wise. So the staff will be presenting our work throughout this quarter according to themes. We have themes like internet shutdowns, privacy, censorship, and so on. Along with that, we will also give you a small update about how things are broadly for the particular theme. Yeah, so let's get started. Um, Gayatri, over to you.
Hi everyone, I'm Gayatri. I'm the Associate Litigation Counsel at Internet Freedom Foundation. Thank you so much for joining us on a Thursday evening. I'll be giving you the quarterly update for internet shutdowns in India. So, for the fifth consecutive year, India maintains the unfortunate distinction of imposing the highest number of internet shutdowns as compared to any other country worldwide. From April to June, there were about 30 internet shutdowns which were imposed across 11 states and union territories. Uh, according to a recent report that uh, According to a recent report by the Internet Society's Net Loss Calculator, which is hosted on their Pulse platform, recent internet shutdowns in Punjab and Manipur have led to significant financial losses for India. The report highlights how governments often hold the mistaken belief that internet shutdowns will suppress unrest, curb the spread of misinformation, or mitigate cybersecurity threats. However, these internet shutdowns have resulted in a staggering loss of over $1.9 billion just in the first half of 2023. There's also a disconcerting lack of transparency that surrounds internet shutdowns. Most of the internet shutdown orders are not published. The review committee orders are not published either, and the orders rely on vague and templatized language. Today also marks the 67th day of the ongoing blanket statewide internet shutdown in Manipur. The internet shutdown has been in place since the 3rd of May. From the second day of this internet shutdown, all internet services have been suspended through templatized orders which are issued every 5 days. The internet shutdown in Manipur has acquired an indefinite character, which the Supreme Court in Anuradha Hussain versus Union of India held that is not permissible. Reportedly, the internet shutdown in Manipur was also accompanied by digital censorship. Uh, the Twitter account of a local body was taken down, and reportedly, FIRs were also registered for the offense of sedition, which has been stayed by the Supreme Court. The ongoing internet shutdown is currently being challenged through a series of petitions before the Manipur High Court. On the last date of hearing, the High Court established a 12-member committee to investigate the implementation of limited internet services by blocking social media websites and VPNs. Just a short update for our members. A petition challenging the internet shutdown in Manipur was also listed today before the Supreme Court. However, the Supreme Court directed the petitioners to approach the High Court. Uh, we also witnessed a we also witnessed statewide blanket internet shutdowns in Punjab. Uh, IFF wrote to the Chief Secretary of Punjab urging them to review the internet shutdown orders and its extensions. This internet shutdown was also accompanied by online censorship. For instance, Twitter accounts such as BBC Punjabi were suspended. IFF filed an RTI with Mighty seeking copies of the blocking orders. As IFF members will now be familiar with this provision, the blocking orders were denied, citing the confidentiality requirement under Rule 16 of the 2009 blocking rules. Between March 31st and April 2nd, the districts of Howrah, Hooghly, Nalanda, and Rohtas also witnessed a series of internet shutdowns in response to communal violence. The suspension in Howrah was issued under Section 144 of the CRPC. The internet shutdown order for Rohtas was not published. IFF published a statement and wrote a letter to the district magistrate Howrah, highlighting that post Anuradha Bhasin, internet suspension orders should be issued under the telecom suspension rules of 2017. Uh, a big update on the litigation front is that a miscellaneous application filed by the Foundation for Media Professionals was accepted by the Supreme Court. Uh, Despite detailed guidelines that have been laid down in Anuradha Bhasin, state governments continue to illegally impose internet shutdowns. Many such shutdowns have been imposed without publishing the orders. Some of these orders are published under some of these orders are imposed under section 144 of the CRPC instead of the telecom suspension rules, and the orders of the review committee are also not published. Based on RTI responses and queries, the Foundation for Media Professionals filed a miscellaneous application seeking compliance with the guidelines laid down in Anuradha Bhasin. We will keep you posted uh, on the next date of hearing. Another major update in on the academic, a major update on internet shutdowns. Human Rights Watch, in collaboration with Internet Freedom Foundation, posted a report titled "No Internet Means No Work, No Pay, No Food. Internet shutdowns deny access to basic rights in digital India." The report documents the insidious impact of internet shutdowns, which has not been captured by the public imagination until now. The report is based on extensive fieldwork and it chronicles how, beyond violating the right to freedom of speech and expressions, internet shutdowns affect the most marginalized communities by denying them access to government social security programs. As governments digitalize and automate social security programs, internet access has become a crucial tool for securing access to essential rights such as social security, education, health, work, and the right to food. For for many marginalized communities, these programs are their only source of basic necessities. Thank you. That's it for the update on internet shutdowns.
Thank you, Gayatri. Hello, everyone. I am Tetsi, and I'm the Associate Policy Counsel at IFF. I will refrain from thanking you for the third time for joining us on a Thursday evening. Fourth, if we count the two times Ashlesh did that. But I will thank everyone who's watching this presentation today for consistently supporting our work. As explained earlier, I will give you a brief overview of the digital rights updates on surveillance, privacy, and data protection, post which I will walk you through the work done by IFF on these themes. In 2023, the rise of dystopian surveillance is evident as we witness the emergence of numerous facial recognition technology systems and the introduction of several new drone surveillance initiatives. Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Goa, and Haryana are leading the way in monitoring infrastructure, agriculture, and public safety. Now, coming to data protection and privacy, these words remind me of the same thing that has been dominating the news these days: data breaches. The most recent and high-profile data breach was the one allegedly associated with the Coven portal. Reporting regarding this breach was met with denials and indeterminate clarifications by the executive. No formal investigation report was published by the CERTIN, nor were the affected users informed about the breach of their personal and sensitive data. This case, among many others, is an illustration of the pitfalls of the existing legal vacuum that has plagued the data governance regime since its very inception. In a similar vein, the AIMS hospital in New Delhi has seen two major cyber attack attempts in only the last 8 months, once again, leaving data held by a public authority vulnerable. These incidents have not just been limited to public entities. In April 2023, Rento Mojo confirmed a data breach for consumer data. Zivame, a clothing apparel brand, too has fallen prey to a significant data breach, which included the personal information of over 1 million customers. Now, if you look ahead, the Union Cabinet approved the draft of the Digital Personal Data Protection Bill yesterday for the upcoming monsoon session of the Parliament. Released for public consultation in November 2022, the bill has had no updates since until yesterday. Now, these were the general digital rights updates or highlights for the past quarter. But what work did IFF do in the past quarter with respect to privacy, data protection, and surveillance? Given the rising incidence of data breaches and the absence of a functional data protection regime, we wrote to the Honorable Standing Committee on Communication and IT on their meeting scheduled on the subject of citizens' data security and privacy. We also wrote a letter to CERTIN regarding the Zivami data breach, urging them to take due consideration of the breach and conducting the necessary investigations. But despite all of this, we noticed a common trend wherein data breaches, which is a reluctance to declare the breach, as well as the financial and information loss borne by the organization. Now, such a failure to acknowledge or report the breach on a timely basis may prevent individuals from taking actions to protect their identities. So in that context, IFF recently launched an initiative called Plug the Breach, which aims to track data breaches in India to increase transparency and public awareness. The tracker has tracked 50 plus breaches since late 2019. We launched the event last month and hope to build it out with the help of the community. So if anyone watching this call wishes to help out with this project in a volunteer capacity, please write to us at policy@internetfreedom.in and check out the recently launched initiative Plug the Breach at plugthebreach.in. The next big highlight this past quarter has been the DigiYatra scheme. Recently, there were talks of launching it at Kolkata, Pune, Vijayawada, and Hyderabad airports under the second phase of implementation. The scheme allows digital processing of passengers using facial recognition to check the passenger's identity at various checkpoints. So we wrote a letter to the Secretary of Ministry of Civil Aviation, raising our privacy and exclusion concerns that may be caused by the scheme and urged them to immediately seize the DigiYatra scheme. In another incident, the Election Commission of India was planning to use facial recognition technology in the Karnataka State Assembly election for voter verification. So once again, we wrote to the Chief Election Commissioner of India and the Chief Electoral Officer of Karnataka, highlighting potential adverse effects of FRT use on enfranchisement. Fortunately, we received a response to our RTI application stating that the FRT pilot project was not implemented during the recent Karnataka state elections. This April, the certain cybersecurity directions completed a year since they were first notified. These directions throw up significant challenges for users' privacy through mandatory data collection and storage by service providers, as well as undisclosed data sharing practices by certain. So to mark the 1-year anniversary, we analyzed responses to 2 RTI applications that we filed with certain about the directions that could potentially put an end to VPN services. The responses received to our queries regarding the issuance of compliance notices were very disappointing and evasive. Certain did not disclose the total number of compliance notices, the list of entities to whom such notices were served, or the time frame for compliance and consequences of non-compliance. So we filed first appeals against the responses. However, the first appeals response upheld the decision of the Public Information Officer. We are planning to file a second appeal and pursue these RTIs to their logical conclusion. Next, we have the Aadhaar Authentication for Good Governance Amendment Rules 2023, which was released by MITI on April 20th, 2023 for public consultation. Now, several issues were flagged in a joint statement by Article 21 Trust, Rethink Aadhaar Campaign, Access Now, and IFF. Among them, one provision would potentially allow private entities to perform Aadhaar authentication. Even more, the Good Governance Amendment Rules would also go beyond its scope to determine the purpose of the Parent Act or the parent legislation. The collective conclusion that was made in the joint submission was that the amended rules were unconstitutional and hence should not be adopted. We will update you on its developments, if any, in the next quarter. Lastly, we have 2 organizational updates for you. In April, IFF joined the Global Encryption Coalition Coalition Steering Committee, along with Mozilla Corporation and 3 founding members, the Center for Democracy and Technology, Global Partners Digital, and Internet Society. The GEC promotes and defends encryption in key countries and multilateral fora where it is under threat. It also supports efforts by companies to offer encrypted services to their users. And now the last thing from me, privacy is supremely on our minds, and so is Privacy Supreme, our annual flagship event, which commemorates the Supreme Court landmark Puttaswamy judgment on August 24th this year, the date privacy became a fundamental right, we will celebrate by organizing expert conversations around the right to privacy in India from the perspective of digital technologies. I cannot give you more details at this point, but do keep an eye out. Now over to my colleague, Anushka.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm going to be talking about 3 things that we did in the last quarter, which are more of an update on long-term projects. First of all, IFF's Project Panoptic, which is our facial recognition systems tracker. We added more projects to the system, and now we are currently tracking 169 projects. I remember when we launched the project in 2020, we started with less than 50 projects, and now we added 44 in the last quarter. So I think this is amazing. And we also did other work that Tejasvi has already mentioned under Project Panoptic. So yeah, lots of work happening on that front. We also contributed to Common Cause and Center for the Study of Developing Societies Status of Policing in India report. This is a report that comes out every year, and this year it focused on surveillance. And we were very, very happy to contribute to the report. And Apar and I were also acknowledged for our contributions to the report. Lastly, one of the biggest conversations right now is the conversation around artificial intelligence and regulating it. And the only jurisdiction which seems to be doing something about it is the EU. The EU AI Act is upcoming, and we try to look at what is happening there and how it might affect India. And we will continue to track what's happening there and continue to bring you our expertise on how it might affect you in India. Thank you. And now over to Radhika.
Second. Yeah. Hi, everyone. Hope you're doing well this evening, and thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Radhika Roy, and I joined IFF's litigation team in May as an associate litigation counsel. It's been a lot of work and a lot of learning, and I'll be taking you through the developments that have taken place with regard to censorship and the work that IFF has done in this field. Next slide. Okay, so starting with the ban, we've had the 2023 amendments to the IT rules, which is something straight out of Orwell's 1984. These amendments grant power to a fact check unit that is to be constituted by the central government to categorize and remove any online content pertaining to any business of the central government that is deemed to be fake, false, or misleading. Another thing which has happened is that the Grievance Appellate Committee, which was to be constituted under the Rule 3A, brought in by the IT Amendment Rules 2022, became functional on March 1st. A very recent update that we have for you is the Karnataka High Court's judgment and Twitter's challenge to the blocking orders issued by Mighty under Section 69A of the IT Act. The HC's decision basically legitimizes the state's power to not follow procedure while violating our fundamental rights. In this matter, IFF had represented human rights activist Akar Patel in an intervention application, as his account had also been taken down. However, the HC did not allow the application on the ground that it would lead to other users approaching the court in a matter that was primarily between Twitter and the Union of India. Third thing is that, so Reporters Without Borders released its latest report on the World Press Freedom Index, and India's ranking has slipped to 161 out of 180 countries. Just last year, this ranking was 150. This is a major cause of concern and indicates that the level of press freedom enjoyed by journalists and media has fallen to an all-time low. To help this cause, we have our digital Patrakar Defense Clinic, where we provide pro bono legal services to journalists who require assistance and representation. We'll be posting the link to our DPDC site in the chat in case anyone wants to access it. Next slide. Okay, so now the first short update that we have is that the overall constitution of the Grievance Appellate Committee is concerning when you think about how its members who have little to no specialized experience in dealing with users will be deciding user appeals against due diligence actions of intermediaries. With the GAC becoming functional on March 1st, we wrote to the chairpersons of the three GACs so that we could understand more about their establishment and functioning. Now, the second big update is the amendment to the 2023 IT rules that I talked about before. We challenged the constitutional validity of the rules before the Bombay High Court and provided legal assistance to Stand Up Comic, Kunal Kamra, and the Association of Indian Magazines. Good news, we managed to secure the government's undertaking that they will not constitute a fact check unit till July 10. Final arguments are currently underway before the Bombay High Court as we speak, and we will be providing you with a detailed update of the arguments on our blog. Okay, so the human rights implications of Meta's operations. Next slide. Okay, so as I was saying, the human rights implications of Meta's operations in India are well known. On March 31st, Meta's annual general meeting was held, and there were 13 proposals that were put to vote, out of which proposal 7 was the only one which related to the Indian audience because it dealt with addresses of Meta's role in incidents like the 2020 Delhi riots. We launched a campaign jointly with ECHO and India Civil Watch International to urge shareholders to vote for this proposal. And we highlighted instances on our social media channels where Meta had failed to address critical issues effectively. Unfortunately, the proposal did not get enough support, but we will continue with our efforts to initiate a conversation as well as demand accountability and transparency from Meta. Can we get the next slide? Okay, so on the basis of the response that we received to an RTI, we had filed on PIB's fact check unit on how many queries they'd received and how many fact checks they'd done. IFF staffers, Tanmay and Tejasi, they had written an article published by the Wire. Interestingly, PIB's fact check unit fact checked that article and claimed that it was misleading. However, we have written a response to that fact check, refuting the claims, as well as sent a letter to the FCU asking them to communicate a clarification on the same. We are yet to receive a response. Now, second is that you may recall that at the beginning of this year, BBC had released part 1 of its 2-part documentary on the Prime Minister of India, which was taken down by the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. Now, in May, a defamation suit was filed before the Rohini District Court in Delhi against BBC, Wikimedia, and Internet Archive, alleging that these platforms were showcasing the documentary. IFF is representing Internet Archive in this defamation suit. Third update is that on May 1st, 14 mobile messaging applications were banned, allegedly because they were being used by terrorists in Jammu and Kashmir. Neither reason blocking orders nor a pre-decisional hearing was provided to these applications. Because this sets a worrying precedent, we filed a series of RTIs with MIT and J&K police to know about the territorial scope of the ban, list of applications banned, and the copies of the orders, etc. We will update you as soon as we receive a response. Get the next slide. And now, lastly, one fun thing that we did was that we had the second edition of our Freedom of Expression conference in the past quarter, where we brought together lawyers and journalists to discuss the importance of free expression in the digital age. We had discussions ranging from various challenges facing free expression, with a special emphasis on government censorship and surveillance. And we discussed the portrayal of law in cinema and how to make the Indian legal system more accessible to the public via media. We also talked about whether disinformation could be tackled by social media companies and the importance of media literacy in a democracy, all of which becomes incredibly relevant with the 2024 general elections approaching us. We'll be coming back with our third edition next year, and we would love to see you there. With that,
I think we lost Radhika towards the end. Okay. Tanmay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, awesome. So that was just Radhika. Okay. So apart from the updates that we just got from Gayatri, Tejasi, and Radhika, we have some other miscellaneous updates that we've worked on. To start with, we reviewed the state of your digital rights throughout the budget session. We put out an explainer. Apart from that, we published a brief on the telcos' demand for fair share in an effort to analyze the increasing demands from them, which in which they are asking OTT services to equally contribute back to the infrastructure, and how the profits are being stolen from the telecom service providers. It's a very interesting brief. Please check it out. Tejas, if you can share the link in the chat. Next slide. Apart from that, we interviewed Blinkit workers during the protests a few weeks ago. We actually went to one of the Blinkit shadow sites where we talked to the partners and learned more about their situation. Next, we went and interviewed Narega protesters at Jantar Mantar who had assembled for a 100-day-long dharna. This was in response to the recent changes to the Narega scheme and the introduction of the National Mobile Monitoring System, which required them to put their attendance through a mobile app. We also did a Twitter Spaces with the organizers of the 100-day dharna at Jantar Mantar. Next, we put out a brief on the ONDC, the Open Network for Digital Commerce. We also published a very short explainer video, which will be shared in the chat soon. Moving on. This is the best part. So next, in a few weeks, IFF and Code Studios will put together the Classroom Misinformation Edition. It's a 10-day exhibition designed and produced by Tactical Tech. The Classroom Misinformation Edition engages the audience and makes them question how misinformation is shared. What are the designs that platforms employ which increase... Sorry, just a second. My screen seems to have frozen. Sorry about that. As I was saying, we are coming to Code Studios for a 10-day exhibition of the Tactical Text, the Classroom Misinformation Edition. Talking about events, we will also be hosting Privacy Supreme in August. This time around, Privacy Supreme will be hosted in New Delhi, very likely at the India International Center. Please stay tuned. More updates to follow soon. Some other operational updates. If you've noticed, we've just redid our website. We are still working on it. So here's the QR code. Please visit our website. If you have any feedback, please reach out to us. We are always open for your feedback. And we are also working on producing some new merch, which will come to you guys very soon. Here are some preview designs of the merch, which we've worked with 5 incredibly talented artists to make. Next slide. And last but not the least, the fun graphs on the screen here show month-by-month breakdown of our income and expenditure. In total, from April 2023 to June 2023, we've raised around 13,03,000 approximately from one-time donations and recurring donations. This includes the funds that we raised through a fundraiser that we hosted on r/India, and the final installation of our installment of our grant from UNESCO. Our expenses in the same period have been around 14,95,000 approximately. We've also recently launched new membership tiers with memberships ranging from 100 rupees per month to like 10,000 per month. And this is mostly it from the operations and fundraising. Now I'd like to ask Tanmay to give some final closing remarks.
Thanks,
before we move on to the Q&A.
Yeah, thanks. Don't mute yourself yet. I think before we move on to the Q&A, Shubham's question is actually quite legitimate. Quickly address that and then you can come back to me.
Okay, I'll just open the chat.
Indeed.
What are the dark red and light bars? Shaila, can you move to the previous slide? Okay, so sorry about the graph here. The light red graphs is our income, and the dark red graph is the expenditure. That's just how it works. The expenditure is always more than the income. So that is a great cue for me to plug in the donate call. Please donate to IFF and help us change the graphs.
Okay. As Rini Simon's voice on the Delhi Metro periodically reminds us, please mind the gap. I don't know if any of you remember Rini Simon from the 80s, by the way. Anyway, in the past, we've done these quarterly calls a little bit differently. We've done them vertical wise. We've tried something new this quarter. So let us know if this worked and what has not worked. If I approach this as a lawyer, then this is our hour of accountability towards our clients, which is you, the Indian public, because you are our members and you donate to us and that pays our salaries, and that's really how that works. So you absolutely get to have a say, not just in our objectives and our activities to achieve those objectives, but also in our processes, including how we bring accountability to you. So we'd love to hear from you. As I'm sure you've heard and seen from the foregoing, it has been a rather eventful quarter, both for the landscape of tech policy and digital rights in India, but also closer home at IFF. We expect the next quarter to be equally busy. June breaks in the courts means drafting, and then July reopening in the courts means filings. But we are still at the beginning of July. By the end of July, there will be more matters that we would have filed, and you can hear much more about them at the next quarterly call. And so before I hand it over to our policy director, Prateek, with that, I will say, if you want to be in the room for the next quarterly call and hear about all of these exciting litigations that we're going to be filing in July, which for reasons of confidentiality, I cannot disclose just yet, become a member. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3 or something similar. Okay, Prateek.
Thanks, Tanmay. And as you were saying, a lot happened this quarter. I think we're looking at an extremely eventful and exciting next quarter as well. There's already talk about, the new data protection bill, whatever that is. There is conversation about Digital India bill, right? And of course, there's parliament session, etc. And if I go project beyond the quarter, there are a bunch of elections coming up at the state level, at also the the national level going into next year as well, right? Which is all a way of me coming back to say that, look, this is, now more than ever, or it continues to be an extremely important time for digital rights work and for organizations doing digital rights work. So, while Tanmay said this is about accountability to, from us to you, I'm also going to turn this a little bit into an appeal, and this is not so much for the people in the Zoom, but this is for the people on YouTube and then maybe watching us later, who are possibly not, supporters already. And if you are, I would say, do try and talk to your family and friends, try to get them to donate to us, because really that's the most important way to have an independent organization that's fighting for all our digital rights, right? Not just your digital rights, it's also our digital rights. We all have a stake in this game. I'll stop right there because I want to make sure we have enough time for Q&A and conversations with our members who've joined us on Zoom as well. So Ashlesh, over to you.